Item D is a memo from our Parks and Recreation Director, Rex Eberly, with regard to seeking support from the council for submittal of a DEM recreation grant to support the Old Mountain Field improvements. There's no questions. Item E, this is a resolution for the council to consider approval of a resolution for bond council to move forward with the issuance of the bonds. We have the municipal $6.5 million bond that was voted on in November of 2020, and we also have a $1 million bond for the Neighborhood Guild that has been in the pipeline for several years now, and this resolution seeks to have council authorization to approve the issuance of the bonds. Item F is another extension of a contract. This is for the building official's office. This is Four Leaf Inc. In light of the fact that we did not have sufficient qualified applicants, we're requesting an extension of that contract. However, we are in the process of still having applicants come in and be interviewed. Item H, we have, this is, you might be familiar with this. Our facilities superintendent has done many of these. They're LED conversions to town facilities. This one's recommending the LED conversion at South Road School, and that will eventually pay for itself over the course of 3 years. Item I is related to the purchase or replacement of our IT equipment, firewalls and the like. That's typically on a 5-year cycle, and our IT director is here also in case there are any questions with regard to the replacement of this equipment, the network equipment for the town systems. Item J and K are related. Item J is a resolution to reject a proposal for the communications radio system that our communications director has been working on for some time now, along with a consortium of agencies within town, including UFD, KFD, police, DPS, towards coming up with one unified radio system within the town. The item J is to reject the initial bid, which was overbid, and that is from Cybercom Communications. Item K is actually the resolution for the council to authorize an award of bid to Marcus Communications. That is the selected vendor. Lance and the consortium has worked directly with Federal Engineering, which is the contracted consultant who helped the town to develop the specifications for the town-wide radio system. And Lance is here also to, if the council has any questions on this. This is one of the items that the $6.5 million bond will be funding. Again, this is a major project for the town, which will provide much improved radio service across the town, which is we've been in need of over the course of several years. This also involves the school department as well, having consistent radio capabilities. Any questions on that?
Well, we might not have time for it in this 5 minutes, but a resident sent me a detailed list of questions that they would want asked. I don't know if I should email that to Lance, and then he can look at it, and then he can, in the interim before that item comes up, prepare, because it's like a lot of, it's like 7 or 8 bullet points. Could you please ask?
He's available during the regular session to present to the council and be able to address any questions. So that's certainly something he can do. I don't think we're going to make it through the agenda in time.
Would it be okay if I just emailed him the bulleted list so that he could look at it now? Because if we don't get to it for an hour.
If that's fine with the council, I have no objection.
I just want to save time. And
Sure. Item L is a a resolution to authorize the town manager to sign off on a letter of support for a grant application to Rhode Island Commerce Corp. For the planning department. And that we also have our director of planning here in the event there are any questions. This is for a $125,000 grant for the planning department. Item M is a resolution for the council to consider authorizing an amendment to the original CDBG application for the purchase of the Welcome House by the Warm Shelter by an additional $80,000, and that is due to some items that had come up during the purchase and sales agreement and negotiations. So we also have representatives from the Warm Shelter here to speak on that if there are any questions related to that.
Are they going to be able to stick around to the new business item?
I think they should.
Okay.
If we get through the rest of the agenda in this time, we can certainly bring them up now. Item N is a resolution for the council to consider accepting a transfer of ownership of Ram Point Marina to Grove Point Marinas. They are selling their business to TS Grove Point Marinas Asset Funding, and that would be under the same terms and conditions of the lease that was recently authorized by the town council with no changes to that. Are there any questions? The family will still remain involved in the day-to-day operation of that business. Item O is an extension of the town's declaration of emergency related to COVID-19. That would put us through to, what is the date? March 5th, no? January 10th, okay. Nothing has changed in that, so we're just recommending that continue based on the governor's executive orders. And then item P is related to the temporary town manager's employment contract, and that will be taken under consideration in executive session and then brought out into regular session. And then you do have a closed executive session on a couple of items. One is the interim town manager contract, and the other is related to the acquisition or lease of real property. And that is the extent of this evening's agenda.
Did you just say we need to go into executive session before item P, before voting on
Is
it?
that correct?
So we'll defer that item, and then you'll act on it back in public session after executive session.
Okay. Questions on the agenda? Or anything else for the manager at this point? Looks like we have about a minute before the regular session begins. Take a very brief recess here. Look back. Next to Chief Bench.
Sorry.
Leave me no choice. You had your chance. It's been a whole month, and you're just dragging your feet. I'm going home. I'm getting in touch with a lawyer. I'm suing you.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of the South Kingstown Town Council. It is Monday, December 13th, 2021. The time is 7:30. Our first order of business is the pledge to the flag. Please rise and join us. And now I'd like to read our land acknowledgement statement. The town of South Kingstown pays homage to the indigenous people and land on which the town is now located. Let this acknowledgement serve as a reminder of our ongoing efforts to recognize, honor, reconcile, and partner with the Narragansett tribe, whose land and water we benefit from today. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Council President Collins.
Here.
Council Vice President McEntee.
Here.
Councilwoman Bergner.
Here.
Councilwoman Kelso.
Here.
Councilwoman Rose is absent.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rose is quarantining, so I thank her for her diligence and safety. If anybody does want a mask, we do provide them over near the entrance. Please avail yourselves of them. All right. Item 4 is the approval of minutes of previous meetings.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 4A, B, and C.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Item 5 is the consent agenda.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion?
I just had a couple of questions about the woman who with the excavating problem and the Holden Road condos. If we could just pull those two items off, I just had a couple of questions.
Do you know the numbers? Basketball court? That one?
Sorry. H, item H, and where's the other woman? Can't find the other woman.
Is it item B?
Yeah, I think that sounds right. B and H?
The roadway?
No, it was the woman who has the excavating problem. It's not on the agenda. J. Okay, so it's H and J. Sorry. Can we pull those off? I just have a couple questions.
Rory McEntee, I'll retract my motion. I'll make a motion to remove 8H and 8J from the consent agenda.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? That motion carries.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve the remaining consent agenda.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. And that brings us to item 6, which is licenses. 6A, a resolution granting victualling, dance, and holiday sales licenses to Yankee Foods, doing business as Muse Tavern, by Chairman Jeffrey Cammons. Is Jeff here? Or please come up to the podium. And just state your name for the record, please.
Good evening, Steve Hardy for Yankee Foods. We're one of the owners.
All right, welcome.
Speaking on behalf of the company.
Great. I mean, I think everybody here is familiar with the Muse, but feel free to tell us anything different.
Nothing new probably to report, just a little bit about us. We came into this, 3 local guys here. One of the affiliates of our business actually owns the property and the name brand property. We were presented with this opportunity a number of months ago, and going here for 20 years, and really impressed with the management here, and we wanted to be a part of it still. So we were, obviously, come to you today asking for this transfer. So, and obviously, we're here to answer any questions that you may have. So,
Very good. Thank you, Steve. Any questions for the applicant?
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 6A.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. We'll see you a bit later.
thank you.
So items B through H here under licenses are all related to the same thing. So this is resolutions granting Class F 19-hour beverage licenses to Global Spectrum LP, doing business as Spectra Venue Management, for the URI men's basketball game. This first one, B, is Wednesday, December 22nd from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. at the Thomas Ryan Center. Application by Mario Martone. Mario, that must be you.
Thank you very much. Thanks. It's a pleasure to be before you. And yes, so Mario Martone, I'm an attorney for the Ryan Center. I have with me Leah Becky, who's the general manager of the Ryan Center, to answer any questions. Just to give you a brief rundown of what we're looking to do, and I heard some of the questions that were brought up at the work session. So as a preliminary matter, this is not an attempt to do an end around. This is ideally we wouldn't be asking for any Class Fs. The idea certainly is to come before this town council sometime in the future, frankly as soon as possible, for a full beer and wine license. So we would not have to come before the council for Class Fs. This is an interim measure just to keep the ball rolling while we're going through that process. As the council, I'm sure, is aware, because it's a new license, it's a little bit more cumbersome, so we're trying to work through. We want to do it exactly the right way and make sure that we come before you with with everything that you need. So for the Class Fs, what we're looking to do is this would be for beer and wine only. It is for 7 men's basketball games, and I should also say that we're only looking to do it until we can get that other license. So if we are able to get the other license prior to the expiration of these, we would certainly be willing to get rid of the licenses on the back end. So it's beer and wine only. The other thing I wanted to say is this is not a totally new system. Alcohol sales in some form or another have been going on at the Ryan Center since approximately 2012. They have been running it responsibly. They have typically used a caterer in the past. As the council, I'm sure, is aware, caterer is a state-run license, so they kind of do their own thing. They're run by DBR. Any issues kind of go through the Department of Business Regulation. The other thing that I think is important to note is that this is something that is also being overseen by URI. The Ryan Center is only allowed to serve alcohol and sell alcohol with URI's consent. So they have additional eyes on them. They have an additional incentive to make sure they run this as responsibly as possible, because if something goes bad, certainly I think the university would withdraw their approval of these alcohol sales. The other, just to give you a little bit of an idea of how it would run, one thing that I did want to mention is that the idea would be to serve at the concession stands. It's not for a pub. In the past, they have used the pub on occasion, and the reason for that is because of the nature of the caterer. It just was easier to do it that way. The idea for this one is to serve at the concession stands. Everyone would be tip certified. Everyone would be asked for an ID. The other thing that they will be doing is they'll be utilizing wristbands. So once you are verified that you're 21, it would either be at the concession stand or it would be at a wristband station. You would get a wristband. Just with regard to security, there are 6 URI police officers who are inside the building from the beginning, from when the doors open. There are additional 9 officers, combination of South Kingstown and URI officers, who are doing traffic outside prior to the games. What typically happens is those officers will move inside. So you'll have even more officers inside the facility while the game is going on. There's also approximately 28 security staff that are hired by the venue to watch all areas of the venue. And what I'm talking about actual security. They also have event staff that are the people that are kind of at the top showing you where you go, where your ticket is, that kind of thing. So we're talking about, just in security, officers and security, over 30 people who will be on site. The other thing that they will be doing is everybody that goes in, they are required, like I said, to show ID. There will also be people watching for pass-offs. So if you're at the event You have a drink in your hand, at any point, any of the security officers, police officers can ask you for ID. If there are any issues, those people would be directed to either URI police officers or South Kingstown police officers for the proper ramifications to take place. With regard to actual service, what they would do is they do a 2-drink maximum at any one time. So it's not like you can go up and order 10 drinks at a time. They also, I think I mentioned this, but everyone who is serving liquor will be tip certified or ServSafe certified, whatever, certainly a ServSafe program that is authorized by the Department of Business Regulation. The guest to staff ratio typically is somewhere, will be somewhere around 25 or 30 to 1. Just for a point of reference, in kind of a nightlife situation, we're talking about clubs and different things like that, the general standard across the country is 35 to 1. I would suggest to this council that that is a much more volatile and much more dangerous situation. And so here, which I think is a much more kind of serene surrounding, the staff to patron ratio is going to be even greater than kind of what the national standard is for nighttime establishments. Any issues, they will end sales early. Anyone consuming unlawfully will be turned over to police. The other thing that I think is important to note is that this is really something that is an amenity for the university alumni and kind of the older crowd that goes to games. The average, and certainly Ms. Becky can answer any of your questions, but the average attendance, student to kind of overall attendance, is about 7%. So at any given men's basketball game, a small percentage is actually students. So the idea is to cater to kind of the older crowd. And I'll also say that the prices are a little above, I think, a college budget. It's been a little while since I've been there, but certainly my college budget when I was in college, so at URI. So the other thing that I think is important to note is it also brings the University of Rhode Island in line with a majority of Division I sports programs. In the A10, the vast majority of programs do serve alcohol at their games, and across the country, the vast majority do serve alcohol at the games. And then just one other thing I want to make sure I mention is that the times that we requested are kind of give us a little wiggle room on both ends. The idea would be to start service when the doors open, which is typically an hour before game time. On rare occasions, if the traffic is kind of heavy, it will be an hour and a half before game time. And then the idea would be to stop service approximately 30 to 40 minutes before the event is over. So I think on average that typically works out to about 5 minutes into the second half. So there's not an appetite to serve for a really extended period of time, and there will be that cutoff a good amount of time before the event ends. I think I laid everything out, and like I said, we're happy to answer any questions that you have.
Yeah, thank you. Question? You go first, Deb.
So I certainly think it's a good idea, and I think it will bring a lot to the fans. I have a question about, we have a number of local breweries. You know, we have Whalers, we have Shades On, Sons of Liberty. I don't think they make beer. I'm not sure. But would you be amenable to locally using some of those vendors?
I'll let Leah.
I've already started speaking with all.
Okay.
I could just ask you to speak into the microphone.
Yeah.
Thanks. I've already spoken to several of them, and absolutely, we would do that.
Because I certainly think that would make it feel more local. And I mean, I know the lobster roll thing is new this year, so it's nice that you can get oysters and lobsters, but I think supporting the local businesses that we have would be important.
And it's nice because this, we used to have a third-party concessionaire.
Yeah.
And we recently took it in-house. And then actually, when we reopened, with COVID, after COVID, this is us taking it fully in-house. So it gives us those opportunities to have those local flavors, and we're really excited about that.
Yeah. Your previous person was very strict because I did go to the pub and it was very well controlled. So I do appreciate that. when you open it up to the entire arena, it certainly creates other challenges. I hear what you're saying about security and things like that. I mean, I also think, like, practically it's just going to make the Ryan Center, which is very nice, very messy, because I can only imagine spilling. That's the mother end.
We have carpet on the concourse.
I know. I know.
I love the carpet, but yes, I
know.
have to keep those things in mind for sure.
I do too. I'm concerned about just serving, because the times say till 11, and, you know, I go to the game and we're usually walking out of there by 9. The game doesn't last that long. So I just don't think serving after, you know, I just want it to be clear that you wouldn't be serving, you know, 30 minutes before the end of the game or whatever, because that to me, I worry about that.
We totally understand that, and we'd be happy to put any condition that the council would request of us with regard to kind of ending it at a particular time. The only reason why we didn't, again, why we kind of put kind of a later time on it is we're just not sure exactly what that time would be. Yeah. But we are certainly happy to put a condition that makes sense, that would make the council feel good about it, to make you feel comfortable that service will end at a time that you think is reasonable. The only other thing I just wanted to mention is that this would not be the first time that the Ryan Center has served through the concession stands. They have had probably 6 events in the last few years, and now we're not talking about basketball games. We're talking about more concerts and different things like that, where they have actually served the entire arena through the concession stands, and there were no issues. So I just to let you know that has happened before.
And if I could add to that, what we found with those times is that, for lack of a better term, there was less pre-gaming. So people knew they could come to the event, they could go and have their beer and take it back to their seat, and there was a lot, we noticed that it was a lot less issues, actually, and those were for crowds 25 plus. There were country shows and comedy shows and things along those lines. And I just wanted to say something to the point earlier. We are the ones that created, as the management of the facility, we are the ones that created the procedures and the policies for the third-party concessionaire, and we held them to that. So we were very strict about the 5 minutes into the second half, and we went around, even though they were very good and very strict, we also made sure that they were very good and very strict, because we know this could be pulled from us at any minute, whether, you know, from the University of Rhode Island or from whomever.
Thank you.
So, Mike, how do we amend this? Because I would be looking to restrict the hours, right, a half hour prior to the beginning of the event, and whatever we're talking about here, 5 minutes past the start of the second half, so people can get to, you know, I mean, there's logistical problems, I understand. But these times are bothering me a little bit. There's 6-hour windows here. And I'd also like to see us just pass it through our January meeting and then have an update on the status of how it's going. Just to hear from them, they can come back in the next, I don't know, I think it's January 22nd, F, G, H, to table those until January, we have a meeting on January 10th, right? So then it's...
Except that I would tell you that January 22nd, that's like the start of the spring semester. Classes start the following Monday, so there wouldn't be any college students really there, sort of to stress test the system, so to speak. So it might not, you might want to push I understand what you're saying, and I think it's a good idea.
Let me just finish. I'd also like to see the proper liquor license application put into town. So I think a month from now, it should give you enough time to apply for what you need.
We are prepared to apply as soon as we possibly can. So
those are my concerns.
We totally understand.
We're on a path to legitimacy. We're not on this, like, you know, if you don't do that, you're back here in February with 6 more F licenses, right?
We don't want to do that, if we can avoid that.
When we award a liquor license, we let the public, it's a public hearing, and we let the public come and have their say. So I think the public deserves that. So those are what I would be looking for with what's before us tonight.
I got a few questions for you. So this J license, that's a new license that came about because of state enactment, is that correct?
So the J license has been around for a while. The issue is that there's really only one other venue in the entire state that qualifies for it, and that's the Civic Center, or the Dunkin' Donuts Center at this point. So the J license has been around for a little while, but it really only covers a very specific set of types of venues.
And DBR is the agency that would administer that license, is that correct?
No, so it would be a municipal license. So
Oh, it'd be administered by the council.
Yep. So we would request it from you.
So the town as well as you are both unfamiliar with how to administer it, so that's why we're going through this Class F 19-hour license for now? Was that safe to say?
So I think the issue and is that at this point, because it's never been requested before, that it doesn't exist right now in South Kingstown. So we're going to make a request that it be created, and then that we be granted that license. So the issue is that because we were unable to apply for the Class J, if the Class J existed, we would have applied for that instead of the Class Fs. So, but because it's a license that needs to be created, this was really the only option to do it at this point.
So Mike, how do we go about creating a Class J license?
So it's going to be very similar to the process you went through when you created that Class T license, a brand new class of license. It requires you to amend your procedures on granting a liquor license. They're going to file an application in Susan's office. Once it comes in, it's going to come to you with the request that basically that this new class of liquor license be created. Once you create it, obviously, then you'll be able to have a hearing on an application for granting or not granting it.
So if we approve the Class F 19-hour license here through the game on January 12th, we'll have enough time in between to create the J, allow them to apply for it, and grant them the license?
I think what's going to happen is they'll probably be here at the January 10th meeting, and I think the soonest you'll be able to act on it, depending on advertising, is the second meeting in January or the first meeting in February. So you are most likely going to have, if you don't vote on all of these tonight, and I think they go through February 5th right now, on January 10th, you would have to act on some more Class F licenses. It'll probably not be until the first meeting in February before you'll be able to have that new license created and a public hearing on whether you're going to grant it.
So, Rory, if I can, my reasoning for saying what I said is that I want to see Global Spectrum put the wheel in motion. So if we go right now through February 5th and they don't put that Class J wheel in motion, right, then they're back here on January 10th or 24th saying, I want 6 more. I want to get that J license in motion. So that's why I'm suggesting we approve through January 12th, right? Because if we don't approve the 12th on the 10th, their hands are kind of tied. They don't know what's happening. And I don't want to do that to any business, right? But I want on the 12th for them to come before us again, requesting these last 3 that we have in front of us tonight, the ones through February 5th, and saying to us at that time, my paperwork is here. I put the wheel in motion for the J.
So you'll be able to submit an application for the Class J liquor license by the first meeting in January? Can you do that?
I would defer to your clerk. So at this point, there was no way to apply for a Class J on the portal. I'm not sure when that's going to happen. So as soon as I'm able to, I will certainly apply for it.
Just created that today, correct, Laura?
Perfect.
Yes. So we just set that up today, so they are now able to actually go into the portal, apply for that license. We anticipate that on January 10th, we would have an order of notice for a public hearing to be scheduled for, because of advertising, would have to be February 14th, I think, is the first meeting in February. And at that meeting, we will also have a new business item where you normally would consider adding a license if you wanted to, if you had an application before you for a license that didn't exist. So you could create the Class J license, set the fee for it, which under state law is the same as the Class B, and then go back to your decision on the public hearing and award it if you choose. That's the timeline that I foresee.
So we will certainly, knowing now that we can apply for it, we will certainly do that. And I don't want to mislead the council. The only thing that I will say is that we may have to keep pushing for the Class Fs just to make sure that we're covered, if that makes sense. So, but we, like I said, our goal is to not utilize Class Fs to serve liquor. Our goal is to get that Class J and utilize the Class J to serve liquor.
And my goal is to encourage you to get there sooner rather than later, right?
Totally understand. We will. Absolutely.
Right. Other questions for the applicant? So I imagine that this will lead to more proceeds that benefit the university. Is that correct? Are they going to go back into the athletic program, or is it just sort of general funds for URI?
The easiest way to explain it is, all the money made and all the money spent at the Ryan Center is the university's money. So we really love to protect the asset of the Ryan Center, and I also oversee the Boss Ice Arena, and it's really about protecting that asset, so we have that asset and that entertainment venue for the community for a very long time.
All right. Deb, do you want to make a motion, or Mike, do you want to assist?
I'll help you through it. I mean, you can make a motion to approve items 6B through whatever you want to go through. It sounds like you certainly want to go through E. Whether you want to go through F or not is up to you. And you're going to approve them as amended in terms of the time. That liquor service will end 1/2 hour prior to the end of the game. And I think you said, 5 minutes before?
5 minutes game time in the second half.
5 minutes before game time in the second half.
5 minutes into game time.
Into game.
Into the 5 minutes into. I'm sorry. Into the
And
game.
a half hour prior to the start.
A half hour prior, right.
Oh, okay. Let me just ask one more question before I make that motion. Does the half hour start prior, do you have functions where people would be purchasing alcohol like that from concessions prior to the start of a game, like a reception is what I'm really thinking of, right?
Yeah, I mean, we do have
generally
receptions through catering and things along those lines, and our goal is always to get people to come to the games earlier so we can alleviate congestion and traffic. So typically we've done it an hour before game time. Really, most of our people come 20 minutes before a game. I wish that wouldn't happen, especially for the police doing traffic out there. But yes, we do have receptions and things, and that's usually serviced by URI Catering Services.
Okay. So I think, Mike, I'd prefer to amend that to an hour prior, right? And then 5 minutes into. And ceasing 5 minutes into the second half. And I will make the motion to approve items 6B through E with those caveats, amendments to the request.
Second, for discussion, I got a few questions for you. Now, you mentioned earlier that at times you would leave it open an hour and a half prior to the event. We're limiting you to an hour here. Do you feel that's going to limit your business here a little bit? We do not want to take steps that's going to limit the activity here.
Thank you for asking that question. If we do have a winning record and we are expecting a sellout crowd, we do want to, again, get people into the building earlier, and to encourage that, I would like to have 90 minutes prior. We don't always do that. Obviously, it costs a lot more in staffing to open up 90 minutes prior, but if we do have a game that's a sold-out game, we want to get people in earlier, and that may encourage. But as a reminder, it's a 2-drink maximum. The lines get long, so people really... I like to say binge drinking is very tough at our venue. We are very strict.
As to the seizing of the service 5 minutes into the second half, is that just normal practice?
Yes, my company runs over 200 venues across the country, and just talking with them, that's been our normal practice since we started, and it just gives everybody an easy cutoff because it's 5 minutes into game time in the second half. Everybody knows when that 5 minutes is, and that always gives us about 45 minutes before the end of the actual event. And we want people in their seats for the game, especially if it's a close game. So it's not only is it for safety purposes? It's also for the fan, to help the team win. We want them to get back in their seats and get loud, so we have some encouragement for the team for the end of the games.
Okay, as long as the 5-minute into second half is a workable time frame, that works for me. But obviously, there's times the games go into overtime, things last a lot longer. It could be an hour before the game ends, but if that's standard practice, that's okay. Deb, you amenable to changing from 1 hour before to 1.5 hour?
No, because they're going to be back here on January 10th for those last 3, and I think at this point, we're going into games where there's not going to be people on campus, right, through the Christmas break, right? So they're going to be back here, because my next motion is going to be to table those other 3 games until they come back here on January 10th, right? And then I would be happy to, if they say that hour's not working, we need more time, to amend it at that point. But I think right now, going to a game an hour ahead is probably not happening would you go to stand in the Ryan Center for an hour before the game began? I think that's a little crazy. But I'd be happy on January 10th for the folks from Global Spectrum to say to me, that didn't work. We need the other half hour. So I think right now an hour before and then the 5 minutes, and they can come back and say to us for the next thing, that 5 minutes into the second half too isn't working, right? This is a trial run here.
So I'd advise you to come back to the first meeting in January, let us know how these limitations are working for you, and if you think they need modifications, express that to us then.
We certainly appreciate that, and we will. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just think that we're hamstringing them a little bit, and that Becky has run the Ryan Center for a number of years. She does know good business practices, so she would be able to. I just don't want to have her not have the ability to flex 90 minutes for a couple of games. It's 3 or 4 games. She has good decision making if you have known her before. I also feel like they could be short-staffed, so it might not even be an issue. We don't want to. We already are hearing about businesses closing because they can't get enough people. We don't want to create another hardship for some entity that's trying to build their own business. So I just put it out there that I would be amenable to giving them the 90 minutes. It's 4 games. They're still coming back. There's a hard stop again, which I wouldn't do. I would just give it all to you and go to February, because I feel like everyone's time is money, and we're spending time here when we think it's a good idea. So I don't want to create extra hurdles for a business entity unnecessarily. So I will vote, however. I'm just expressing my opinion that I think it's undue hardship on Global Spectrum and URI.
All right. Any thoughts on that? Are you comfortable with this motion?
I'll leave my motion where it is, and, if it goes where it goes, right?
You know when conference play starts?
Well, it's
December 30th versus Dayton. Early this year. Usually it's early in January, but it's like in December.
And, further discussion up here? All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. And that'll bring us to 6F, G, and H.
So I'll make a motion that we table F, G, and H until our meeting on January 10th.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. We'll see you guys in January.
Good luck. Item I is a resolution granting theater and dance licenses to South County Center for the Arts, doing business Courthouse Center for the Arts. This one we're not quite ready to entertain either, so if we could have a...
Rory McEntee will make a motion to table 6I to the next regular town council meeting.
Do you prefer that we continue it?
Yeah, continue it to January 10th, yes. Use the word continue. Continue to January 10th.
Continue, yeah, just table.
Rory McEntee will make a motion that we continue item 6I till the meeting in January 10th.
Second.
Moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. That brings us...
Just so the public knows, we're waiting on some paperwork which isn't ready yet. That's the only reason it's being continued.
Thank you, Mike. All right, we are now at item 7, public hearing. 7A is a public hearing relative to an application for transfer of a license to keep and sell alcoholic beverages in South Kingstown in accordance with the general laws of 1956, as amended as follows. This is a Class B victualler liquor license, transfer of a Class B victualler liquor license from David Barnes Development, Inc., doing business as Muse Taverns, 456 Main Street, by David Barnes, president, to Yankee Foods, LLC, doing business as Muse Tavern, 456 Main Street, by Jeffrey Cammons, managing member for the first and second floor, mezzanine and third floor lounge, including a 40-foot expansion as described in the special exception granted April 20th, 1994, and special use permits granted September 17th, 1997, and January 21st, 2004 by the Zoning Board of Review, and additional tavern area in accordance with a special use permit granted on February 20th, 2013, and expanded service area at the rear of the existing building within the existing parking lot consisting of curbside pickup kiosk and hostess station with dining seating and border separation from the parking and vehicle access, approximately 8,000 square feet, in accordance with a special use permit granted March 17, 2021 by the Zoning Board of Review, and further defined in site plans dated March 7, 2013, April 14, 2021, on file in the town clerk's office. Said transfer is contingent upon the issuance of a certificate of good standing from the Rhode Island Division of Taxation, issuance of a certificate of insurance, evidencing required liability coverage, compliance with all town ordinances and regulations, the payment of any municipal taxes, user fees, and lease payments in arrears to the town, the correction of any fire code violations, and the satisfaction of all claims. That's a mouthful. All right, Susan, I believe there was something that we need to enter into the record.
There was an objection made by McLaughlin and Moran Incorporated in the amount of $2,726.94. There was an objection and a subsequent release filed by Mancini Beverage, and there is a letter from McLaughlin and Moran, not in opposition to the transfer and stating that all monies owed have been paid in full and they're in good standing. So there are no objections at this time. They have been released.
Great. Thank you. All right. Steve, Jeffrey, I don't know if you're both here. Feel free to come up to the podium or anybody else who's here to represent this item.
You've already again.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
All right. So, again, we're all, I think, familiar with the Muse, but tell us about this transfer and, why should we be receptive to it?
So, again, majority of the ownership, we have 4 owners, one of which has been a manager in the Muse for a number of years. We've had businesses. Our families are here in the state. We've been going here since... I've been going here for over 20 years. We're URI students, former URI students, and it's something that we really wanted to be a part of, especially for an affiliate that actually owns the property and the adjacent property. So we were looking to secure that fate and also keep on a great condition, a tradition of this business and how it serves the community. So. You said it. I mean, it speaks for itself. The team there, that's what actually drove us to the Muse. How they operate, how they treat their customers, and how it's grown. And especially at a time in the last 2 years, a business that is so prone to what's been happening, to see how they've been able to overcome that. And be resilient to it is something that has struck a chord with me and the rest of my partners. So, just a little bit of background. So,
Thank you.
Answer any questions, obviously, that you all have.
Any questions for the applicant?
I got a few questions here. Is David Barnes going to be a member of this LLC, or is he selling his interest to this group?
Selling its interest to this group, completely separate.
Understood. And you're retaining the same management? I think you iterated that?
Absolutely everybody.
Same operation, same
Same
management,
operation,
same
nothing will change.
Understood. Thank you.
Makes it easy.
So, I'm not sure if I was clear. So, what your question was, Rory? So, David Barnes is selling, there was a group of 4, and now he's just releasing his interest to the group of 3?
No, actually, there was a group of 2, and then there will be a brand new group of 4. So the managers, the staff are separate from the ownership. Owners didn't really weren't involved in the day-to-day operations, obviously as they are. So we're taking over just that ownership only.
Questions for the applicant? All right, very good. This being a public hearing, I want to open it up to any questions that might come from the public. Is there anybody who would like to speak on this particular item? Sure. Anybody. First come, first serve.
We'll have a little fun. Bob Traeger, South Counseling, Succotash Road. Anyway, I've been to the Muse many times, but not much in the last few years. But it so happens just a few weeks ago we did go over and had a meal there. And the Muse has been around for a long time. I played a lot of cards over there over the years, and I think that the Muse has demonstrated its ability to handle whatever situation comes their way. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on this item? Very good. Do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Do we need to do anything? No. Do I hear a motion on 7A?
Lori McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 7A.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Good luck, guys. Fun. 7B is public hearing relative to application for renewal of a license to keep and sell alcoholic beverages in South Kingstown in accordance with general laws of 1956, as amended as follows. This would be for a Class D legitimate theater liquor license for the South County Center for the Arts. Again, same situation as that previous license. Just a motion to continue would be welcome.
Lori McEntee, I'll make a motion to continue 7B to the first meeting in January.
Just for the record, excuse me, that'll be the January 10th meeting at 7:30.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. And that brings us to item 8, communications. Communication 8B, an email dated November 22nd, 2021 from Norma Relke. Oh, no. Oh, it's so... Never mind. D, I had that wrong in my mind. D is a resolution adopted by the North Smithfield School Committee and East Greenwich School Committee in support of the General Assembly extending sections of Rhode Island General 16-7-40, increased school housing ratio. Those have been received, placed on file. What would we like to do with them now?
I'll make a motion that we place item D on file.
Second.
Moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Item I, is that right? H, an email dated December 4th, 2021 from Linda Hazard concerning the status of Matunic Beach Road condos project. Response from the principal planner are received. What would we like to do with that?
So I just wanted to call this one out because back in 2020, pre-COVID, that issue brought 100 people out, invested in the Holden Road, Matunic Road, Beach Road condos project. And she's asking for information, as I'm sure other residents might be. So I just wanted to make sure that the town staff is clear about trying to make sure that people know that that is going to happen. I think it's coming up in the next month. So I just don't want to, the response was sort of like, it's going to happen at some point, but not really here's how you can pay attention, here's where the agenda's found, here's where, just because it's just sort of like, it'll happen next month. And so if you don't know to hunt down the planning board agenda or hunt down the TRC agenda, you would not know that would come about. And since 100 people packed this room and sat for 4 hours to talk about it on multiple occasions, I just didn't want it just to be put through on a consent agenda. That's all. This is important to our community. I just want to raise that to everyone so they know. So if the town's future responses could be, here, even if it's routine, here's how you find the agenda, or here's where agendas are posted, so that they might know. Because I don't know what Linda Hazard's technology skills are, or if she knew where to look, but she knew how to email.
We can certainly clarify going forward with links for people to access the planning page or whatever page is associated with their inquiry.
Right, because even if Linda knows, responding so that anybody who clicks on that agenda item would have more information, a better picture. So John Brown in the community is like, I'm interested, and it's just pushed off to sometime, doesn't give the person enough way to get to the meeting.
Very good. Any other discussion on item 8? Do I hear a motion?
I move that we accept item 8.
Second.
So moved. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Item I is a letter dated December 6th, 2021 from Jude Newsom, tendering his resignation from the Economic Development Committee, effective immediately. That has been received and placed on file. What would we like to do?
Move that we accept Jude Newsom's letter of resignation and direct the town staff to thank him for his service.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. J is an email dated December 7th, 2021 from Geraldine Runningbrook Venter, requesting reimbursement for costs related to a residential construction project, and a response from the building official, what would we like to do with that?
Yeah, I just felt, very sad that, all of this happened to an elderly woman who's trying to retrofit her home so she can, age in place. And I just didn't know if there were first of all, any additional information that's come about, or are there any options for her? Because I do feel sort of sad that she incurred additional expenses. And if there's any other information that anyone is Jay here to provide.
Okay, I think I heard your question. The building official has already been in contact with the resident. Inadvertently, this resident was advised to appeal to the town council when, in fact, this type of case would be referred to an internal claims review committee, and that has been done already. There's been communication with the resident, so that those wheels are in motion.
Any further discussion on J? Do I hear a motion?
I move that we accept item J.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Item K is a memo dated December 9th, 2021 from the senior planner concerning the Economic Development Committee's request to hold a joint work session with the Town Council and Recreation Commission to discuss Saugatucket Park improvements. That has been received. I don't know if the senior planner is here, or one of the planning staff, if somebody wants to come and talk to us. Hello, Brian.
Hi. What's your question exactly?
So I can speak to this. This is the EDC requesting a joint work session with the Town Council and the Recreation Commission in order to further discuss the Saugatucket Park project. We were looking at initially January 10th, but again, there's already a work session scheduled for that. But that date, so we're looking at January 24th for a work session prior to the council's January 24th meeting to provide an update on the Saugatucket Park project with the Recreation Commission, the EDC, and the Town Council.
It was also the EDC's belief that you wanted to hear back on the results of the public forum that they conducted back in September. So they wanted to be able to fill you in on the outcomes from that and talk to you about moving forward with what they have.
And the 24th works for EDC and Rec.
Well, we wanted to first poll the
Well,
council.
I know we'll be here.
See if that would work for you all.
Yeah.
6 or 6:30, depending on how long you feel might be appropriate for an update from.
The planning board is also going to be invited to this, not just the EDC and the Rec Commission, right? It was the planning board as well. Yes?
Mr. President, Jamie Rabbit, Director of Planning, we have that on the agenda for tomorrow night's planning board meeting for that very subject matter. There are members of that planning board who have been very active in the Saugatucket discussion. They wanted to bring it forward as the full planning board, in essence, to see if they could be invited to that meeting and actively participate. So to Mrs. Kelso's point, it is on the planning board's agenda.
That sounds like a very large meeting, but there's a lot of seats in here.
I just have one other point. When I initially spoke about this at our last meeting, I thought we were going to have a work session, a good lengthy work session with just this item, right? So I don't know what the thought is prior to the January 24th meeting.
Mm-hmm.
It feels tight to me that we're going to have 3 boards in attendance plus the town council, and I want to make sure that this item is given the attention I think it deserves at this point. I mean, that park is, a very, well-used resource, and I think it needs some attention. I just want to make sure we're not a 15-minute work session before the 24th.
Is
That's
a
all.
6 p.m. start?
Hour-long conversation.
Is the council amenable? And that would give you an hour.
Yeah, that
If you think
sounds
that's-
good to me. I just want to make sure it gets the attention it
Mhm.
deserves.
So that would be the only item that we're talking about. 1 hour, 3 boards, the town council, and we're only going to talk about Saugatucket Park.
You'd have to limit it to that, yeah.
All right, so thank you. I think that sounds good. I was still, do we have a motion on that item? Okay.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion on 8K that we plan to have the meeting on January 24th. The start time is 6 p.m.
Any further discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Item L is an email dated November 8th, 2021 from Ken Burke advising of his resignation from the Affordable Housing Collaborative Committee. That's been received. What will we do now?
I move that we accept Ken Burke's letter of resignation and direct the town staff to thank him for his service.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Item 9 is comments from interested citizens. So, anyone who would like to say something, please approach the podium. It's first come, first served. Just state your name for the record, please. Come on up. You can wait. We'll see if anybody else wants.
I was trying to come the last meeting and I crashed, which I can crash pretty much every day about 8 o'clock. Anyway, I'm here today, and believe it or not, I've been able to hear maybe 1/4 of what was said, so I missed an awful lot. But I wanted to come because I'm leaving in a couple of days, and I won't be back for 3 months. I'll be up in the North Country. That's my routine for quite a few years. Been lucky enough to be able to do that. In the meantime, this past, I think it was Saturday, we had these tornadoes rip through part of our country. I wonder if anyone, and I'm sure you have, just contemplated for a moment if that was this town. I mean, think about it. I mean, it's mind-boggling to me. I can't even, they can't wrap, I can't even begin to wrap my hands around it. So these things happen. They've happened. The fires in California, and you can go on with the stuff that's happened. Okay, that's not really a subject there's really not too much we can do to prevent these types of things. But as a country, we have to cope with them, and that's why I respect anybody that sits where you sit, because you're in a position to move forward things that are important. I really came tonight to thank you for what you do. It's the main thing. And I want to emphasize, there's so many things going on right now. If you listen to anything, if you listen to Meet the Press this week, if you just watch that and listen to these several commentators tell you what they think about what's happening in this country, it's mind-boggling too. It's not the same kind of thing as a tornado, because that hits and destroys immediately. But the things that are going on in this country right now are destroying us. They're at the soul of the country. And I'm only going to mention one of them. I mean, there's so many things that I feel like I've said before, I think the town should have meetings at least once every month and let people come in and talk about this stuff. We need to talk about it, and we need to realize that we're not that far apart. But there's the one big one in my mind that we all should be thinking about, is that if some of these states in the United States of America decide they can elect or remove people that verified elections and put in people that have the power to overturn an election in a state, we're done. So I don't know what we do, but anything you can do, anything you can say to influence movement in a different direction is probably in this country right now the most important thing there is. And there's so much else. The hate things that are going on in schools now, I watched a couple of hearings on that. I mean, the stuff that's going on, it's just that one, though. Forget it. That's the one. That is the big one for the country. Because just think about it. It's mind-boggling. That's mind-boggling. Those tornadoes are mind-boggling for one reason. That's mind-boggling for a reason that the whole country could fold up. So I know it might sound stupid, but I never thought I'd ever say words like this in my life. I'm 82 years old. I'd never, in a million years, think I'd be saying and thinking and seeing and hearing what I've heard in the last few years of what's going on. So we gotta. I know we're in. I said many times we're in a cocoon over here. I always tell that to my kids. I just did it. We had dinner at my son's house today. We're living in an artificial world because we are surrounded by mainly good people that are doing what they think is right, and it usually is. But that is not what's going on in this country right now. There's a lot of people that do not bend in that direction. Anyway, I'm going to leave. I usually stay till the end, but I'm going to leave right now, and I'm going to say goodbye, and I'll pick you up in about 3 months. And I hope everything's, I hope you have a great holiday and a safe one. Just think of how lucky we are. We live in South County.
Thank you. Happy holidays. All right. Any other comments from the public tonight? This is the opportunity for public comments. Any topic, please come forward.
Dave Cote, Wakefield. I'm here to talk about the improved EMS response time efforts. And I don't know, I'm going to talk about this. I'll keep it brief, but I don't know if you want to hand it out. So the great news is I had an opportunity to meet December 10th with Chief Stanley and UFD former Chief Barrington. It was a great meeting, and it kind of progressed things because he explained things. And what he said that's going to happen is they're working on an emergency medical dispatchers. And what that means is the dispatchers now are not able to triage the calls. So if someone has a sprained ankle, he explained, you don't have to have an ambulance out there in a certain amount of time. So with the EMD, and this is a statewide, it's not town, it's a statewide effort. So April 2022, that's going to be instituted, which should greatly improve EMS response times. The key thing that I want to emphasize is evidence-based decision-making. On October 26th, I went to the planning board meeting and I requested data on response time. Haven't received it for the 4,000 calls, but I think it's a work in progress. I spoke with Chief Stanley. He said he had manually had to get location data, so I said, okay, just let's keep the location data out and let's have the basic data, which I wrote down there. So at the planning board meeting, it was made clear to me when I was going there, the attorney for the Mattoonic Fire Department said, it's basically the planning board is not there to make the best decision for the town. That's the town council. All they were there is to comment on the Mattoonic location. So they didn't have the big picture, not their responsibility. So that's why I'm back with the town council, because it's your responsibility based on what they said, which I think is true. So there's no need to go, because the efforts here is to make the best decision for the town. So if we could get the 4,000 calls, get the call detail, that would be really helpful, and I'll analyze it and share it out. So the key thing, one point I would make with the 4,000 calls, because they said it averages 10 to 18 calls per day. That's the verbal, but the math doesn't, like peak calls, it could be 30 calls in a day. But then there's times when there's no calls. So I just want to get the data so we're talking about the same thing, because the only way to make the right decision on response time is to have the data. So as far as the financials, my understanding, and again, this was verbal, is that the 2021 budget was $2.1 million for EMS for 15 staff. The budget for, I'm also making an assumption that we're going to purchase the third ambulance. So where does that third ambulance go? The budget with the third ambulance is, it's $270,000 for the third ambulance, 8 additional staff. I believe that comes up to about $1 million.
Dave, I just want to alert you to, there's a 5-minute speaking limit, so
a lot
of us can read this. But
how many minutes am I? I got this.
You have about 1 minute and 40 seconds left. So if you want to boil it down, we can definitely read this at our own.
Okay, what I want to boil it down to is that there is, without the data, there is 5 senior centers over 55. So if you're going to target the response time, that's a good place to target. All those, the 5 over 55 communities are north of Route 1. So that's something to consider. So alternate one is to deploy the ambulance at the existing public safety building or the SK police station. As far as alternative site assessment, Town of South Kingstown is about 77 square miles with water. It's 57 square miles with land. So putting the Matunic site, which has 5 building waivers required, is at the furthest southern part of the town. So we have the 57 square miles to cover. So the 3 sites that were the 2 other sites, Tuckertown is 7 times the size. It's 219,000 square feet. But Tuckertown would handle South Shore Village, Village at Warden Pond, and there's another senior center that is, can't think of the name of it. But so I'm saying Tuckertown is great. Then there's the 3rd alternative site would be town property. So I wanted to bring this up because the chief felt like town property would be utopia, and that's the South Kingstown Water Facility at 142 Green Hill Beach Road that has 14.5 acres. So the chief felt that being on town property would be utopia. So that's all I had to say.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public tonight? Any comments up here at the council table?
So I just wanted to, I know we're going to have the work session with the planning board and EDC and Parks and Rec on Saugatucket. I just want to put it out there that having a work session with the planning board is important. We have a number of projects that sort of sit in gray area, and I'd like to meet with the planning board to try to advance them with Old Tower Hill Road, Route 108, and just getting a handle on the Horsley-Witten. That contract was 3 years ago. It still seems like there's items that are not yet done, and I don't know what is in the way of getting those things done, but I think it would be important to meet with the planning board on that. So I wanted to get it out there that maybe we would establish in February a work session with the planning board on land use topics.
That sounds like a good idea. Any other council thoughts, comments from? I'll just say, happy holiday season, everybody. We're dressed festively up here. Hopefully that spirit is infecting all of us. I've definitely seen all the lights going up around town. It's great to see. We had our annual tree lighting ceremony a couple weeks ago, or maybe a week and a half ago. It was great. Probably the best attendance I've ever seen in my time on the council. So it's always a great time of year. Obviously, all the kids are excited. So hopefully we're all sharing in that excitement. I want to wish everybody happy holidays, happy New Year. Yeah, that's all for me.
Yep. Sorry, for anyone who's listening or watching, on tomorrow night, the school committee will be once again doing the report out with the 4 subcommittees. Last Tuesday, they had a meeting, and there was no public attendance, so I know that we need to try to help advertise. If people are interested in attending, the 4 subcommittees, budget, strategic planning, building, and redistricting, will be reporting out and asking for community feedback. I know it's a really busy time of year, but it's also one of the most important topics that we've been dealing with for a number of years, so I wanted to make sure that the community knew that the meeting is tomorrow night at 7 o'clock at the high school, and that they're seeking multiple ways to generate more publicity and market so that it's a very transparent process. I spoke with the chair who wants to make sure that the community is aware so that people don't think that things are being decided without input or in a vacuum. So that meeting is tomorrow at 7 o'clock at the high school.
Good reminder. Thanks, Very good. If there's no other comments from council members, we'll head over to the town manager's report.
Thank you, Council President. Just a few items I'd call your attention to. Item E on the town manager's report is a memo from Deputy Chief Bucco from the police department, just indicating that the police department will be starting a pilot body-worn camera program. If you recall, there was a law passed with regard to statewide body-worn cameras, and there's federal grant funding for 5 years. And with that, the SKPD, along with the majority of other municipalities within the state, will be moving forward, and in South Kingstown, we'll be starting a pilot program in that regard. So I did want to make you aware of that. Item G, with regard to a follow-up from a communication from Mr. Pignatoro, our tax assessor had provided a scenario for various tax exemption possibilities if the council were to consider changing that ordinance. It's something to take a look at, and you'll need to give me some feedback as to what you think you may want to explore, if anything, in terms of changing the tax exemption. We did change that, I believe, in 2021 it went up to $340 exemption for 100% disabled veterans. The scenario that our assessor had provided showed a variety of exemptions and the implications of revenue loss based on 25% exemption, 50%, 75%, and 100%. So that information is there for you to take a look at and determine whether or not it's something you'd like to consider to explore. And item L, our Director of Administrative Services, Luke Murray, did provide some information, just a snapshot on the current COVID-19 scenario within the town and also within relation to the state situation. As we all know, there's been an uptick. We also understand that the Omicron variant is now in the state of Rhode Island. We have not heard at the state level from the governor, although it appears that there may be some announcements coming this week on the state level. Until that time, we are continuing to go by the same policy that we've had in place for the last several months, which is anyone who is fully vaccinated may enter a town facility without a mask. If those who are unvaccinated or not fully vaccinated are required to wear a mask. And we will continue with that policy. We have had a few cases of town employees. We're also monitoring that closely. If something should change, the council will be notified, but as it stands now, we will remain with the current policy for town facilities. And then as a reminder, on December 20th, the council and the school committee have the first initial budget joint work session here at 7 p.m. To start the budget process. So I'm sure that's on everyone's calendars. And then just very briefly, in relation to the resident at 42 Dam Street, there was action taken on that. The Public Services Department did remove the dry well that was in the roadway. There is some contact with social service agencies. The Johnny Cake Center is assisting the resident. There has been contact between the town and the Johnny Cake Center in that regard. We will continue to work with the Johnny Cake Center. The resident did have a quote for the work to be done. We're going to continue to cooperate with the social service agencies to assist with that.
Just a simple question. Did they fix the hot water heater? Does he have hot water and heat?
To my knowledge, that has not been fully repaired yet.
He was here earlier, as you may have seen. He showed me some quotes he has for some of the work, the replacement of furnace and the hot water heater looked like it was going to be $23,000. It's work that hasn't been done yet. And I think he's still waiting for a quote on the repairs to the basement in general. So that's, I think where things stand. Obviously, somewhat upset. Threatening legal action here. I don't know, Mike, do you have any input on the situation? It's not on the agenda, obviously, so.
No, and I'm more than happy to make this a something, if you want to discuss in executive session, you can add it to the agenda, because litigation has been threatened, so I'm more than happy to discuss it with you. So when we get to executive session, if you want to add discussion on this topic, you're free to do so.
That sounds like a good idea. Is any other questions for Terry? Deb mentioned it a couple minutes ago. Horsley Witten report. We're still, sort of waiting on some work product there. Do we have any updates on?
So we do. There is another section of the project underway. They have provided language for the planning department to review and go over. We do have our planning director here. If you'd like to hear from Jamie, perhaps he can provide a little bit more detail on that.
Again, thank you, Mr. President. With regards to the Horsley Witten staff, again, as Terry Murphy has stated tonight, we've received the next section from Horsley Witten. We received that in mid-December. We're going through that editing process for that proposal. We intend to have it on the work session for the planning board at January. As we enter into that, right after that January meeting, if the planning board is relatively comfortable with that section, we'll then push forward on the final section within the plan, which is mixed use. Further along on your agenda item is a grant opportunity to hopefully move that discussion of mixed use on Tower Hill Road and Main Street further and quicker with those resources that could become available.
And if we have, I think there's probably actionable stuff in the first two sections, right? And if we do want to start moving on some of the recommendations that are going to be coming out of this, maybe it would be good to have that work session that Councilwoman Bergner was mentioning in February.
Yes.
We, at some point, send us those work products, as soon as, obviously, you're comfortable with.
Yes. And the next section, because, as the planning director, I'm very familiar with it. The next section is townhouses, village apartments, and mansion homes. So they're the larger scale to the cottage and duplex discussion. So.
Great. All right. I'm out of questions for the town manager. If nobody else has any, we will move on to the solicitor's report.
So this evening, I just wanted to bring you up to date a little bit about what's happening with our consultants in connection with the manager search. First of all, the community profile brochure or pamphlet I know is forwarded to all of you by Susan. They wanted you to have the one final look at it. If anyone has any further edits or questions about it, you can let them know tomorrow. Otherwise, they want to get that published. So is everyone comfortable with that at this point? I'm seeing everyone shake their heads. Good. So we'll go forward with that. They have been reaching out and documenting their conferences with a number of individuals that council members suggested they reach out to with regard to input on the attributes we're looking for in the next manager. Nothing surprising at this point. Many of the same themes that were discussed with you at the last council meeting they were at are coming up. But they're keeping track of all that, and they wanted you to know that those interviews are ongoing. They are going to be here at your January 10th meeting. We've got them scheduled for 6:45 to 7:15 to bring you up to date. As you may recall, January 3rd is the deadline for filing applications. As of the middle of last week, they had 14 applications. What they told me is their experience is Most people don't apply till the very end, so it's totally normal. But they did want you to know that applications are starting to come in, and again, they're going to provide you prior to the 10th with a timeline in terms of how these applications are going to be vetted and when they're going to have what various tasks done for you. What they would propose when they come on the 10th is they would stay on the 11th, the Tuesday, and use that day for community input. And if you're all in agreement, their proposal is around noontime to have one meeting at the senior center so that individuals who want to speak to them but don't want to come to like a town hall setting, they've again used that approach in the past and it's worked well. And then they would do a community meeting at town hall at either 4 or 5 o'clock on that Tuesday afternoon after people are out of work. In addition to that, there'll be a email link for the community to engage for anyone who can't come out in person or is not comfortable doing that. But they do want to be sure that they get the community input that you're all looking for. And again, if you're agreeable to that, that's what they'll plan on doing on Tuesday the 11th, and we'll get word out about those 2 community meetings. It's good?
Sounds good.
Okay, so I'll let them know tomorrow that you're in agreement. We'll set those 2 meetings up. We'll be prepared to meet you and bring you up to date at the meeting on the 10th. And unless there are questions, I think that basically is what I had for you on the manager search.
Thank you. All right, very good. That brings us to item 12, appointment.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a resolution appointing Kateri Collins and Lisa Beth Sanford to the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a resolution appointing Connor Duckworth to the Waterfront Advisory Committee.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. And then I think there were a few more who stepped forward to serve on the 300th anniversary.
Yes, that's correct, Council President. It's not under appointments, but we have 3 additional applicants who have since applied to participate in the planning, the steering committee.
So I'll make a resolution to appoint to the 300th Anniversary Steering Committee Ginny Paul, Dino Ortiello, and Philip Telford.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Item C, every year we have to appoint a tree warden. It has been Bill Wallace for as long as I can remember. He still wants to serve.
Yes,
Rory
we've had
McEntee.
communication that, I'm sorry,
Yep.
he's still.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a resolution appointing William Wallace to serve as the tree warden for the town of South Kingstown.
So moved. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. And that brings us to new business, item 13. 13B is a resolution authorizing an award of bid to Tasca Ford of Berlin, Connecticut for 4 2022 Ford Utility Police Interceptor vehicles in an amount not to exceed $150,500, including contingency, equipment transfer, installation, and trade-in allowance, and is further described in a memo from the police chief to the interim town manager dated December 6th.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 13B.
Second.
Moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? That motion carries unanimously. 12C is a resolution authorizing the interim town manager to execute a First Amendment to the revocable license agreement with the Rhode Island Department of Health for use of South Road School as a COVID-19 testing and vaccination distribution site through March 31st, 2022, further described in a memo from the facility superintendent to the interim town manager dated December 3rd.
Rory McIntyre, I'll make a motion to approve 13C.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? That motion carries. 13D, a resolution authorizing the submittal of a grant application to Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management for funding through the 2021 Recreation Acquisition and Development Grant Program for the purpose of planned capital improvements at Old Mountain Field, further described in a memo from the interim director of Parks and Recreation to the interim town manager, dated November 19th.
Rory McIntyre, I'll make a motion to approve 13D.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. 13E is a resolution authorizing the approval of resolutions prepared by Bond Counsel, as shown on Exhibit 1, authorizing the issuance of bonds and or notes in an amount not to exceed $6,500,000 to finance the town's capital improvement plan for FY 2020 through 2026, as approved by the electorate on November 3rd, 2020, and the issuance of bonds and or notes in an amount not to exceed $1 million to finance neighborhood guild improvements, as approved by the electorate on November 7th, 2006, and the advancement of funds from the town treasury and the subsequent reimbursement from bond proceeds, further detailed in a memo from the finance director to the interim town manager dated December 6th.
Rory McIntyre, I'll make a motion to approve 13E.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. 13F, a resolution authorizing the extension of a contract originally awarded on June 14th, 2021 to Four Leaf, Inc. of Central Street in Foxborough, Mass. for plan review and building inspection services on an as-needed basis for up to 6 months from January 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2022, further described in a memo from the building official to the interim town manager dated December 3rd.
Rory McIntyre, I'll make a motion to approve 13F.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. 13H, resolution authorizing the interim town manager to execute a National Grid Energy Initiative application for an LED lighting retrofit project at the South Road building using the National Grid on-bill repayment option, further described in a memo from the facility superintendent to the interim town manager dated December 8th.
Rory McIntyre, I'll make a motion to approve 13H.
Motion second. Discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously as well. 13I, a resolution authorizing an award of bid to TBNG Incorporated of Milford, Connecticut for town networking equipment in an amount not to exceed $213,143, including a $3,000 contingency, as further described in a memo from the Director of Technology to the interim town manager dated December 8th.
Rory McIntyre, I'll make a motion to approve 13I.
Second.
Motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously as well. 13J, a resolution, maybe we can take J and K together. J is a resolution rejecting a proposal dated September 28th, 2020 from Cyber Communications of Warwick, Rhode Island for the public safety UHF voice radio communication system, described in a memo from the fire alarm superintendent to the interim town manager dated December 1st. And the K is a resolution authorizing an award of contract to Marcus Communications of 33 Mitchell Drive, Manchester, Connecticut, for implementation, construction, subscribers, and delivery of a turnkey UHF simulcast system in accordance with the proposal dated March 3rd, 2021, an amount not to exceed $2,692,842, further described in a memo from the fire alarm superintendent to the interim town manager dated December 1st. Lance.
Hi, Councilwoman Bergner, I did read your questions. Can I ask who sent those to you?
A resident.
Okay, I was a little concerned with some of the questions as it was a report from federal engineering that wasn't released to the public, so I can assume who sent them to you, but I thought that would be under communications instead of being blindsided up here right now. But I can answer a few of them. A few years ago, we had a meeting with the old council that was up here that answered 90% of those questions. It was a special meeting we had with the Union Fire District, Kingston Fire District, and the town council. A lot of those questions were answered. The 800 system, it is a good system for interoperability. We're not going to get off of that, so we're still going to use that for mutual aid purposes, for police and fire. A few of the other things that did pique my interest in the questions, the person that emailed you seemed to put firefighters' life safety first. I don't think that's fair. We have plow truck drivers in blizzards, parks and rec guys doing their thing, schools, and the senior bus. They should all be counted as equal. I don't think one should be ahead of the other. All human life is equal in my eyes. And NFPA 1802, that is the standard on two-way portable voice communication devices used by emergency services and personnel in hazardous zones. If you Google NFPA 1802, the two radios that we're purchasing show up on that list. So that's about it for the questions I really had that were emailed to me. I know there was 10 of them, or maybe more, but some of them are, they're not good questions. I don't know how else to say that.
So it's like a whole new set of language and vocabulary for me too. So that's why, some of the things I don't really understand. I mean, I read the question and I'm like, I don't know what that type of radio is. So that when he's saying, look.
No, that's understandable. So I can just explain it to you real quick. Right now, the fire department is on UHF, the 400 network. Parks and Rec are on VHF. EMS and police are on 800. So there's really no smooth communications with anybody at all. So this being a town-wide system, everybody can communicate with everybody. Inside schools, school to schools, police, fire, EMS, Parks and Rec, senior bus, all these people can talk to each other now. A town-wide interoperable channel. When you design a radio system, you have to take into account that it's for your town, not your surrounding community. But we did take that into effect for mutual aid purposes. We can patch and dispatch. We can go on the 800 if we have to, because we're not leaving it. We're going to use it as it was intended for interoperability.
So is it a second radio system? I mean, you're saying that you're going to keep...
No, the state owns the 800 system. Mm-hmm. We are going to own the 400 system. Yeah.
So the question about ongoing costs, are there ongoing costs?
There's maintenance costs as there is today with the police, Parks and Rec, Highway. They have maintenance costs. We have maintenance costs for UFD and KFD, and the police also have maintenance costs with the 800 equipment at dispatch. And another reason for the 400, if you wanted to buy an 800 radio, you're looking at $4,500 a radio. A UHF radio is around $1,000, $1,800. So it's a huge price difference for what you're getting. And the communities that are on the 800 that they have to talk to is Narragansett, North Kingstown. That's it.
What about the question about the radio companies from New Zealand? Are there other...
That was one of the questions I didn't spend much time reading because Tate is it's a worldwide, it's used throughout the world, just like Motorola is and Kenwood is, and I mean, what does that mean?
I don't know. So
I don't either.
How many other Tate systems are in use in other public safety systems in Rhode Island?
Thousands.
Thousands?
Not in Rhode Island, but across the country. Okay. Yep. This is why we hired Federal Engineering. They're the company that went out, looked at all these proposals, actually tore them apart. That's what they do. That I don't know anything about Tate or that stuff. That's why we hired a consultant.
What about the question that he has about the four different sites, but only 2 are connected? What does that mean?
That was the old RFP that we just...
Rejected?
Yep.
Return RFP, one that we rejected had 4. So all of these are going to be linked because he's saying that the other one...
That's a simulcast system. Okay. 4 sites.
Okay.
Yep.
It's like reading a bunch of
Oh, no, I tried to be transparent as possible with this project, and we started this really 5 years ago. This has been a long time coming.
So when you make the adjustment down to fit the 2.6 million, did you eliminate certain items?
That's what the proposal came in at.
Okay. So it wasn't, things were value engineered off or better?
That 2.6 is everything. That's infrastructure and radios for every police car, fire truck, plow truck. And now, if you take that, remember the KFD and UFD are going to be paying a portion of that. So the town's on the hook for 75%, and then you have the 23 and 2% from the fire districts.
In March, I don't remember any of the, so it feels like a lifetime away, and then you get a very detailed list of, like, can you help me understand all of these other things? So I appreciate that you explained it.
No, anytime.
Lance, I commend you. I know you've been the one leading this project. I know initially there it didn't look good because we couldn't find a bidder who would fit within our budget, but it's happy to see that one is there. And this is a big investment for the town, but a wise investment. So I'm happy to get on board with this.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Lance? Or do I hear a motion?
Rory McEntee will make a motion to approve item 13J and 13K.
Second.
So moved. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Good to see it getting off the ground. Item L, a resolution authorizing the interim town manager to send a letter on behalf of the town council in support of the grant application to Rhode Island Commerce associated with the town's initiative to solicit and retain the services of a professional planning, design, legal team through a formal request for proposals to guide the community through a process of workshops, design charrettes, outreach, and education to assist in the development of regulations that promote innovative, context-sensitive design for new development and redevelopment in Peacedale and Wakefield, further described in a memo from the planning director to the interim town manager dated December 7th. Well, we can have a motion, or we can have Jamie come up now.
Jamie, can you just kind of walk us through broadly what this entails? I read the letter that you wrote, but I think it's just important so everyone has a good gist watching.
Yes, so we do have this opportunity from Rhode Island Commerce, working as the economic development arm of the state of Rhode Island, who has a specific grant opportunity that relates to improving zoning regulations that can improve the logistics and economy of the permitting process at the local level. We had anticipated working on some of these problematic zoning aspects in our capital improvement plan 2 to 3 years from now. There was $125,000 and another $75,000 in our capital plan. With this grant coming forward, it gives us the opportunity to look, in essence, at Peacedale and Wakefield, and Peacedale being, a quarter mile from the Rotary, Wakefield starting by the car dealerships and the dam, working all the way up to the pharmacy, all the way through Shaw's up to Route 1, and that interconnection. And really looking hard at the existing land development in that area, the relationship of our existing zoning code, and how we can improve both the permitting process and the zoning aspects to get the type of development that the community wants. And looking at that aspect of what the community wants through workshops and the charrette process with a qualified consultant who can articulate what the vision is for the community and then articulate that through proposed regulatory changes.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jamie? Do I hear a motion on item M?
So, I apologize, I'm not feeling really my best self today.
No, that's fine.
But can you just go back, because 5 months into the budget, you actually have, into the budget cycle, you have an extra $25,000 to put toward this grant. It just sort of feels like it's come out of, like, within 3 days, all of a sudden you have it done, and we're first hearing about it on Thursday, so I'm just curious how it all came to be again.
So in this coming, when we did the capital improvement program last year, I believe we had $75,000 targeted for this year that would become available on July 1. And then there was another batch in the following year, and then so 75, I think 125, and then 75 in that realm. Because of some budget constraints in this upcoming fiscal year, that $75,000 is being reduced to, I believe, $35,000. And looking at the existing budget on the operational side this year, the Finance Department was able to find some additional resources that could be directed to the Planning Department for consulting services. So again, we were trying to move some of our projects forward, and when this grant opportunity became available, knowing that I had additional resources from the Finance Department that were moving over to consulting services within planning, that I thought our grant application would be more attractive if we showed a commitment from the community as part of the grant proposal, which would bring the total amount of resources available to $150,000.
Any other questions? Do I hear a motion?
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 13L.
Or no, L. Sorry, I was wrong. All right. We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Item M, a resolution authorizing the submission of an amendment. Thanks, Jamie. Community Development Block Grant Affordable Housing application to the Rhode Island Office of Housing and Community Development, requesting an increase of $80,166 in the project budget for contract number 20/32/36 for $309,844 to $390,050 for the purpose of supporting the Westerly Area Rest Meals Warm Center's acquisition of the Welcome House Emergency Shelter located at 8 and 22 North Road in Peacedale, further described in a memo from the senior planner to the interim town manager dated December 9th. Right.
Yeah, I think the manager described this earlier in the work session. There were some financial changes that fell out in the purchase and sale process that wound up with some additional expenses on the table. Since we weren't that far into the CDBG process, WARM and one of their consultants reached out to the state to see if additional funding was available. They were told that the money was there, so we're going to reapply to get the finances to compensate for the issues that they ran into. Russ Partridge from Warm Center is here if you have any questions for him about what transpired. Otherwise, you have his letter as part of my package that sort of explains what happened.
Well, questions, or do I hear a motion?
Can we have him come up just to talk about it a little bit?
That letter is not hyperlinked, so I don't see that letter.
Good evening. Russ Partridge, Executive Director of the Warm Center. Thanks very much for entertaining this motion. The best way to describe this without going into long, drawn-out detail is that the best way to describe it is that Welcome House on two fronts overestimated what they could take to pay down their current mortgage, and then underestimated what it would take to actually close the mortgage out. To give an example, they were selling a piece of property on High Street, and they intended to take $100,000 from the proceeds of that sale to pay down the mortgage. What happened at the closing of that is that there was a lien on that property for $50,000 that they had to dispose of in order to sell that property. So right off the bat, that left them with being $50,000 short to pay down the mortgage. Currently, they have $50,000 to pay it down. They were intending to pay down $100,000. The other thing is they did not tell us, nor did we discuss at all through the conversations that we had, there's a prepayment penalty. And I think that prepayment penalty is in the, Moji, correct me if I'm wrong, it's in the $4,000 or $5,000 range. And then the next thing is they were going to use some of their additional operating money to pay down the mortgage. They really can't do that. If they were to do that, has the potential to put them in such dire straits. And so as we've kind of walked this through, and going back to the state and realizing we're about $80,000 short, we're actually, and if I can, and I don't want to throw another number into this, it's been tough enough. We're actually about $100,000 short, because in this process, WARM also has the option of getting developer fees and covering our costs through CDBG. WARM has withdrawn that. We will pay that cost because I think it's the right thing to do.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure I understand. You need our approval of this application. This does not impact South Kingstown's finances budget at all, right?
Correct. That's correct.
All you need is us as a formality, really, for us to say, yes, please go back and amend your application.
That's correct.
Okay.
Am I correct in that? Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to overspeak, but that's correct.
So, any other questions or?
What was said right there? Did I miss something?
No, he's absolutely correct. There's no cash coming out of South Kingstown pocket on this. This is the entire sum that we're looking for to aid them is coming through the CDBG program through the state.
Got it. Thank you. Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 13M.
Wagner, I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Item N is a resolution accepting the transfer of ownership of Ram Point Marina, Inc. to TS Grove Point Marina's asset funding of Little Falls Drive in Wilmington, Delaware, under the existing Marina Park property leases dated July 1st, 2021, between the town of South Kingstown and Ram Point Marina, with the exact terms and conditions therein, further detailed in a memo from the interim town manager to the town council, dated December 8th.
So, Terry, is this just an assignment of a lease with our approval? Is that what this is?
Yes, there's new ownership. It's not changing the lease whatsoever. They have to live under the conditions of the lease that Ram Point Marina agreed to, I think it was back in July now.
How long did I knew they wanted a longer lease.
It's a 30-year lease. There's two leases. It's a 30-year lease, and then there's the 5-year lease for the riparian rights along Marina Park.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 13N.
I'll second.
All right, we have motion, we have second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Item O is a resolution extending the town's declaration of emergency adopted at an emergency session on March 15th, 2020, subsequently renewed on April 13th, May 11th, June 8th, July 13th, August 11th, September 14th, October 13th, November 9th, December 14th, January 11th, January 25th, February 22nd, March 22nd, April 26th, May 24th, June 28th, July 26th, August 10th, September 13th, October 25th, and November 8th, all in a row, as shown on Exhibit 2 attached to the agenda.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 13O.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion?
Yeah, next month, can we just say monthly for 2020, right?
I'm okay with that. I don't know. I'll leave that up to the clerk,
Susan,
really.
that we can say that was renewed monthly for 2020 and monthly up until 2021? to get Abel off the hook finally. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All right, anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item P is a resolution approving a temporary town manager employment. Oh, no, we're going to wait to do that until after our closed executive session, so we'll just hold that for the moment.
I can read the close. And Mike, what are we adding to it? Was the discussion?
I will tell you what the motion is, and I'll add that additional one for you. So it's a motion to move into closed executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42465A1 to discuss matters pertaining to personnel, the interim town manager, and pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42465A5 to discuss matters related to the acquisition or lease of real property for public purposes or of the disposition of publicly held property wherein advanced public info would be detrimental to the interests of the public, and to convene its executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42465A2 to discuss matters pertaining to potential litigation.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. I want to thank everybody for coming and attending tonight, and we'll see you the next time, maybe. If we don't see you before the holidays, happy holidays. Happy New Year, everybody.